behind the scenes issue with a 43-year-old bike is, will it start? All right, we're out here. I'm gonna bet it's gonna start eventually. There's gonna be some smoke and some pops. Need some ether and a jump pack. Oh, popped. Oh. Choo. Come on. She sneezed. Hey guys, it's Devin from Three Amigos Motorsports. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. We do all kinds of motorcycle content. No specific brand, but we do Harleys, Victories, Yamahas, Kawasaki, ton of different content. So please hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support us. If you're one of our followers, welcome back and thanks in advance for watching. Today, we're going to do a little featured bike, something I've had on the back burner of my list of YouTube ideas for a while. This is actually my first bike. This is a 1979 Kawasaki SR650. And what's even cooler about this bike is this is and was my dad's first bike, the exact one. It's a very long-winded story how I came across it. A ton of ironic situations where this bike basically found me and I was able to buy it back 30 years later. So I am going to tell that whole story, but I'll save that for the end of the video. So for now, we'll just give you a little tour of the bike. It's all original. It's in really good shape for 43 years old. It's original paint. A couple different winters I've cleaned up and done different things, like repainted the exhaust and fork lowers and some other stuff. It's by no means perfect. I got some other work I want to do, like some corrosion and stuff here from brake fluid. But overall, it's kind of a survivor for something of its age. To rewind a bit, so the SR650 is pretty much the special edition of a KZ650. I mean, they made hundreds of thousands of KZ 650s. Oh, there's a 750 and a 1000. The SR was basically, some say it stands for stateside replica. And the SR basically got you the mag wheels over the chrome spokes, a fatter tire in the rear, which was for the the chopper era of the 70s. You got painted fenders front and rear instead of just chrome. It only came in these two colors. It's midnight blue and then some sort of red pearl. I don't know the name of that. And some other chromed out headlight and blinkers. But besides that, its DNA is a KZ 650. A lot of 70s styling on this thing. But I guess we can get into what's done with it. So this bike is exactly how it was in 1987 when my dad sold it. So everything that's done to it, he did himself. So one of the most obvious things right here is the Kirker 4-in-1 header. This bike sounds like you're going 100 miles an hour faster than you actually are at all times. So if you're going 30, it sounds like you're going 130. It's loud, so I don't take this bike to work very often at 6:30 in the morning. True story, my neighbor actually just came out of the house because it was making so much noise when I fired it up to come do this video. But sounds great, a lot of backfiring and popping and occasional flames, and it's got a nice sound to it. We'll throw in some sound clips. These springs here, the Merzacci, if I'm saying that right, they're Italian reservoir shock, and I remember my old man telling me that even back in the late 80s when he put these on, they were $700 or $800 then. Today I was doing some homework before this video, and Merzacci made springs for over 70 years, but in 08 they sold out to a bigger company who ended up producing in Taiwan, I think, and now that quality went way downhill. But for other performance stuff, I know it's got a Barnett clutch in it, it's stiff as ever. I don't know much more than that. Ignition, it's got an MSD ignition, some Excel plug wires that very nicely match the oranges and yellow pinstripe. I think he added this Lockhart oil cooler for some extra cooling. I believe there might be a stiffer spring in the front. Besides that, I think he added the crash bars, and I'll pop a picture up. This bike had a quarter fairing off another, probably a KZ 1000, but I have it off right now because it's got a crack in it and it's not color matched. So all original except for this side cover you're looking at here. Unfortunately, ripping down the road one day, it blew off and got a whole bunch of road rash. It's on the wall in my garage. Took me probably 2 years of checking eBay every couple months to find one of those. Other performance stuff. The obvious, it's got this K&N pod filter. It's got rid of the stock airbox. These are a set of Mikuni smoothbore carburetors. The original carbs were four carburetors all in sync. The originals were a 22 millimeter, I think also Mikunis, but these smoothbores are either 34 or 36 millimeter carbs, and they are huge compared to the stock ones. I have the originals up in a box. I'd love if I had the time and money to do a little more tuning to this bike. It's almost too much fuel down low. It's tough to ride when it's cold until it's warmed up, and it seems like a lot of fuel down low. But once you get over 5-6 grand, this thing absolutely screams. It'll keep up with bikes of its class. I mean, a new street bike would run circles around it, but factory, I think it was like 66 horsepower and 42 foot-pounds. Who knows what it would put out now. All right, so in a nutshell, I haven't done a lot of major changes to this bike. I kept it exactly how it was, the way my father left it. If anything I did, it was just upgrades as far as like repainting stuff. I think 2 winters ago I did some new chain and sprockets and just threw a few $100s at it for a refresh. One day I'd love to fully restore it, but then you don't know how far to go. You know, you want to keep the original paint, and how much money do you put into a bike that's only worth a few grand, but obviously sentimental to me. So with that, I'm going to tell a story how I found out about this bike and how I got it. It all started in 2011. Bob and I from the channel, being best friends as kids, we both graduated from the same technical school, and his parents had a little, graduation party. And my old man was shooting shit with Bobby's uncle or family friend and talking about old bikes and stuff they had. And one of the two was describing, I have this midnight blue or purple Kawasaki, and it's got a Kirker 4-in-1 into it, this and that. And it was, hey, this sounds a lot like my bike. So more into the conversation, they figured out it was the one. That might have been 2010, but fast forward another year or two, I had then been harassing him to try to sell it to me, until one day I got a call from him, and he said, I'm moving to Florida, do you want to buy your dad's bike back? And I said, yeah, how much? And of course, because I'm going to buy it. He said, $300. I said, sold. $300 sight unseen. I expected it to be pretty rough and just need a ton of work. It was up in storage in Vermont, but when we got the storage unit, he stored it really well. It was up off the ground, under a blanket, and the only thing that was off of it was the carburetors, and otherwise everything was intact. So to get the thing on the road, it was 2 fresh tires. I did pay someone to do the carbs, because getting those all 4 synced, that's definitely an artwork. Had to do like a tank lining and just a lot of TLC, and the thing fired up pretty easily, and it was back on the road right after that. All right, so we talked about how I got this bike on the road. What was really cool about getting this bike is I still lived at home till I was 23, so when I got this bike at 21, I didn't tell my parents. I just showed up with it, so they were completely shocked. And what that did was I lived in a house with, no way you're getting a motorcycle, you'll be too dangerous, all that. And I showed up with the one motorcycle that they were so dumbfounded when I rolled in the driveway with it, that slippery slope from there, fixing up the bike, it was, you can ride around town. And within months, I was riding all over creation, and that's what led to my first Harley. And 100,000 miles later and 10 bikes later. But this is the first bike, or this is my first bike what got me into riding, and it was the bike that allowed me to get bikes, if that made sense. Even though I always knew I wanted one. Of course, as a kid, all I ever wanted was a street bike, and I couldn't even ride a street bike for more than 10 minutes now. So what was super ironic about getting this bike is I have the bill of sale that came back with this thing. My father signed it in 1987, before I was even born. So even the continued irony is the guy he sold it to lived in the town I worked in, so I actually worked with this guy while I was in college. Found out he had bought my dad's bike. Even weirder than that, so when he bought this bike for my old man, it was his first bike, and he didn't know how to ride, so he had his buddy come at the sale to ride the bike home. Well, lo and behold, we found out his buddy was our very own Bobby's father. So Bobby's father picked up a bike from my father in 1987 before either one of us was even born, which is pretty wild to me. And then it sold to Bobby's family friend uncle and ended up in Vermont after that. You know, and pretty much 30 years unchanged. Talking to my dad, I mean, the guy didn't change anything. It has the keychain that came with it. I have the 1987 bill of sale. I have receipts from Cycle Gear from, you know, 1988 and stuff, where spark plug was 62 cents. We'll have to go through some of those receipts, because it's like a time capsule of the stuff I have with this bike. He got his leather jacket back, which I don't know how the hell he fit into it. But there's just so much history with this bike. I mean, my parents went for their first date on it. Again, my old man's first bike. He did sell this because he was trying to buy, he bought a 1000 and a Z1R, which is a much rarer Kawasaki. So it would have been kind of cool to get that one back because it's worth something. But to have his bike back is completely priceless and sentimental. So of course I will never sell this bike. So it's my first bike, and I will keep it as long as I live. And hopefully you guys like this video. I've had this one in my head for 2 years since we started the YouTube. I wanted to do this one just because this bike's special to me. I think I covered all the details of how weird it was getting this bike back. It's pretty good for 300 bucks. When I get home, we'll go through some of the stuff I have with it. Alright, I said I'd go through some paperwork because I have quite the historical artifacts. I have to correct a few things. My father sold it in 1985, not 1987. Keep his address out of here. But $500 in 1985. Not a bad deal. Pretty cool. The other thing I misspoke on, the Mikunis are only a 29 millimeter Mikuni, but that's still a big carb over a 22 millimeter. And then just some cool stuff. Back in the day, apparently Cycle Gear did carbon receipts. I got a stack of Cycle Gear paperwork, all the local stuff. I found this one. This is when he put the chrome Kirker on it, which I remember him telling me once it blued and purple, he painted it black, which I love the blue and purple. But in 1985, I think this was, maybe 84, $348, I think that says, for a Kirker. Now, if you find an old stock one on eBay, they're $1,000. Just to give you guys another idea, 1984 K&N crankcase breather with a filter, $4. I wish I could pay those prices. But anyway, just some cool details about how much stuff I have with this bike. So thanks again for watching.
Sounds nice.
Never know what to do with my hands. I can't even lean on this bike. It's little. You rolling? All right. How y'all doing? Nope. I don't. Nope. Nope. It's been a while.
You got street bikes? Oh no, wait, no, we don't. Oh wait.
All right. Hey guys.